What up, YouTube? Let's make another video. Today we're going to talk about what to do when you run into a job that is too big for you to handle by yourself. This will happen when perhaps you have a situation where you have multiple floors and furniture. Whenever you get a client that's talking about multiple floors and furniture, don't assume that you're just going to He-Man that job by yourself. Plan accordingly when you can. It's always good to have an emergency contact or two. Could be a friend or family member. Make sure you have your you send them 1099. I believe it's 1099. Yeah, basically they're going to be paid like a contractor would be paid. Protect yourself from audits. Make sure you explain to them that it's not some under the table job and you're going to pay people correctly. But with that said, if for some reason you don't have a friend, family member, somebody that you can count on, like last minute, because that's what a lot of these jobs are. They're, hey, can you get out here tomorrow? Can you get out here in the next couple days, please? I'm trying to get out of here, or I'm being evicted, or I'm moving out, or I got tired, I couldn't finish the job. It's a lot of last minute stuff. Don't count on a lot of your jobs being, scheduled out weeks in advance when you're just starting out. So think about that ahead of time when you can. Now, if for some reason you just can't, find somebody who's reliable that way, right-hand guy or girl, then you really need to make sure that you have a backup contingency plan with perhaps a temp agency, or you could link up with the labor union. You could link up with a lot of different areas. Labor union's going to cost you quite a bit. I've investigated it, but they do handle all your payroll for you, and depending on what you're charging, sometimes you might not need to be not the cheapest option on the block to make sure that you're doing the job the right way. The biggest advantage that I have is junk removal. Starting for me is a side job. It's not my main bread and butter. The money that I get for this, I for the most part pretend like doesn't exist. Just let it grow in the business account. Use it for gas for the truck, and other things that I need to take care of that are business focused. Unless there's some extra money there that I can invest into another trailer or more equipment, things like that. But anyway, so make sure you build your bench. Also set expectations with this bench, right? I have a family member who ultimately just doesn't work a lot, is fairly available on call. Very lucky that way. I have another friend of mine who was like that, but did get a job, and now I know that I can only use him that way on the weekends. So I can prepare my conversations with my customers to say, if you need something this week, the soonest I have available is typically like Saturday or Sunday, right? And that's only if it's a one trailer load because it can't dump on the weekends. Or I've also created a partnership with a dumpster rental business locally, which allowed me to open up my weekends really nicely, which I would also recommend that you do, is try and strike up a business-to-business relationship with the local dumpster rental company. The kudos there, the key there, is to make sure you're not trying to link up with another junk removal business. Dumpster rental and junk removal are not always the same. So if you link up with a dumpster rental company, make sure they're not also junk removal, because then they might end up just taking your customers or something like that. So yeah, you want to link up with, find yourself a partner for dumpster rental so that you can get into weekend business much more frequently, and ideally someone who's also not booked up weeks and weeks out, right? Because a lot of times you're going to need a dumpster in 2 days, and you want to find someone who has that flexibility. And also explore rates. So I did talk about this briefly in another video, but make sure you are doing your homework on not only dumpster rental rates, but obviously places like your transfer stations, metal recyclers, they don't all charge the same. They're all for profit, just like we are. So you want to make sure you're getting your best price, shop around, create a map. I have a map at home, personally, of every single transfer station, every single recycle center, and I have called each one of them to make sure I understand what their costs are. That's something you should probably do once every 3 to 6 months, just to make sure that you're still going to the most competitive rate, right? Also, the other thing to consider there for your transfer stations isn't just the price, but how long do you have to wait in line? Is it a busy part of town? I had the situation where there's this place called New Waste, which is a transfer station in kind of central Buffalo, near the suburbs. But then there's my favorite place to go is Lockport transfer station, and they never have a wait, and they're very competitively priced. They don't have a 1-ton minimum. But the other place, New Waste, and a few of these other ones over here, have some minimums, but they're less expensive. So I had a situation where I was closer to New Waste, but their wait time to just get on the weigh station was going to be 25 minutes. So I changed my mind. I drove an extra 15-20 minutes to another transfer station, because in that time I could get in and out and pay less and get back to my job, or onto the next job quicker. So it's the cost, it's the wait time, and how picky are they on certain items, right? So in New York, none of them are going to take electronics. Electronics are banned. You have to take them to electronics recycler, which that's another person to put on your map. There's probably not going to be a lot of them. There's not as many electronics recyclers as there are transfer stations. So make sure you have them on your map as well. It's another person you want to make a very good connection with, because a lot of times they have a cap on how many TVs you can turn in. And I was able to work a deal with one of our local folks who will now let me bring in unlimited stuff, because he knows I'm not coming in with semi-trailers full of stuff. So same thing with paint and chemical recycling. You do need to make sure you're licensed for that sort of thing. It's a big fine if they find out that you're transferring liquid chemicals around. So please be careful. Don't just start doing it. Research your local area to make sure that you're traveling safe. And then, so I have a few, like I said, friends or family members that work with me. I do have them on payroll. I've been using Paychex. It's been good. The problem with Paychex, though, is they expect you to run payroll like every week. And, the problem with junk removal is it can be very seasonal. It can be very feast or famine. So probably going to end up having to go another route. But it's important to know what you have available, so that when you're talking to customers, you're not like, I think I can, maybe next week, I don't know, we'll just can I get back to you? If you're talking like that to the customer, they're just going to make the next call. They will call 800 Got Junk luggers and all the big boys, because they do know when they're going to be out there. They have enough people. They are big enough to have a schedule. They are booked out a month. So if you want to compete, you got to be able to be flexible and get out there. The other thing you can do to think creatively is, if you don't have a bench, if you don't have people that you can call on, think about how you can maybe chop up the work, right? So let's say they have a couch on the 3rd floor, but pretty much everything else in the place, in the house, is grabbable today, right? You can set the expectation that, hey, look, I can take care of this, this, and this. I'm going to need help with this, but I'm just going to get started with what I can get a hold of now. Would you mind if I picked up these 2 big items for you on Saturday, right? And that would care for my need to get a hold of somebody. At that point, if I had to, I'd use my wife. She's tough as nails. She'd be able to take care of that with me if I really needed to. Also, make sure you got the right equipment. Like, I can move a fridge myself, right? I got the straps, I got the dolly, I got the right equipment. If you are a solo operation, a lot of what you can do really depends on what tools you got, which there's a lot of great videos out there on tools. I'll probably end up doing one myself. But I got a nice Costco dolly. It was like $180, but damn, that thing can carry 700, 800, 900 pounds. And and I've been able to move everything very well with it. In fact, I finally think I'm hitting the end of life for that dolly because the handle's starting to bend. But boy, has it been a nice mule for me. But yeah, make sure you got the right straps, the right tie downs, the right tarps, gloves, all that stuff, and you'll find that you can do most things, right? There's going to be sometimes where you're like, good God, I wish I had a second pair of hands, or good God, I wish I was big enough that I could just pay people to do this for me and take a smaller cut of profit, right? Like, that's the goal. Eventually you're going to get there. Eventually you will make it. And in this down economy, I'm still getting phone calls. I'm sure a lot of you guys are too, because it's not a job that a lot of people want to do. And by the way, I pay my folks a lot of money per hour. Talking about $25 an hour, which is well above the average. But it's one of those things that, like, they gotta love the physical work, right? And I think it's very calming. In fact, what really gets my workers hooked on it is take them to the transfer station. Take them to the transfer station and have them just chuck stuff into the pit. It is a very satisfying feeling, right? Like, you see a nice big old fat pane of glass, you got a shelf in your hand, you're like launching at it, it shatters. It's like a rage room. We work half of the time in a rage room, and boy, do you build up that rage when you're going up and down skinny stairways with heavy pieces of furniture, and or really like biohazard, like disgusting areas. But you learn to love that stuff, you know, like, and not only that, but how the happiness on customers' faces when that stuff is gone and they just gained real estate in their own house, or can move on to sell their house. Like, there's never like a situation where that I've seen where someone's like, ugh, I'm glad that's over. It's more like, wow, this, what a difference. Holy smokes, I didn't know that was possible. That's most of the time what I get when I'm done doing a job. So anyway, so yeah, I wanted this video to be mainly about like planning, right? Planning around what kind of support network you've built for yourself, you know, especially if you're starting out, plan on a lot of smaller jobs, and advertise that way too. Don't go on Yelp or you know, Facebook, and start advertising construction haul away, right? Or like, you're going to set yourself up for failure. You're going to get a lot of disgruntled callers who said, oh, I thought you were junk removal. What do you even remove? And so just make sure you market yourself towards residential junk removal. Offer same-day service if you're doing this full-time. That is a big one that a lot of junk removal companies cannot offer. You know, within reason to what they have. You know, market more landscaping cleanup. There's almost no landscaping cleanup that you can't do yourself, as long as you got like a chainsaw, right, and a shovel and a strong back. You know, so just, you know, think about it. Think about your community. Think about your area. Think about the seasonality and needs of your area, and try and scoop up what you can scoop up, and have a contingency or two. All right. Well, you guys have yourself a jolly day. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.